let's take a few questions on UFC London, and then I'll show you Cage Warriors before we finish up.
Cool. Yeah. So we had a donation and a question from Caleb Fowler.
Thank you very much.
Does Paddy and Meatball have a legit chance at...
Have they got a legitimate chance of getting to the belt?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Title aspirations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if we're realistic, Molly's got a much better shot than Paddy has, just purely based on the look of the division. You know, you've got to think how many lightweights you've got to get through to get to the belt. The only other way around it, the only way to kind of circumvent that horrendous, list of contenders that you've got to work your way through is to be incredibly marketable. Now, I mean, of course, McGregor was able to leapfrog a lot of queues because he was very marketable, and Paddy does have that. But that can also work against him because he could get leapfrogged up to the division before he's ready to. It's not like he can't gain the skills that he needs to compete with these guys, and with the chaos that he brings, there's always that possibility that he's going to land something. But his best way of doing it is to manage his ability to talk his way into fights and parlay that against, fighting a whole bunch of people that are going to really be problems for him on the way up. Molly on the other side, of course, the flyweight division it's a lot lighter than the men's lightweight division. I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, Hebus, Tracy Cortez, Blanchfield, Calvillo might be a good fight. Casey O'Neill when she's back, Macy. But there are a lot of good fights there for Molly. A lot of very winnable fights. But then as you get higher up the division, you get to the Tyler Santoses and the Chikagians, and that's when there's going to be a skill deficit that has to be bridged. I don't think I think it's perfectly within a capability to do it, but there's definitely work that needs to be done there, because it's just it's the Valentina Shevchenko division. You've got her right at the top, and then you've got a couple of fighters just below her that are moderately competitive, but to get to the belt is challenging. To get it off Shevchenko would be very difficult, but to get into the top 15 at lightweight's a challenge. I'm excited to see where they go. I think we need to give them room to develop, and I think if they have that time and that space to develop and they're built correctly, then absolutely they can get to where they want to be.
So Dan, what 2 or 3 skills would you add to Paul's skill set if you were in his corner?
I think whatever he's doing with his striking, he's doing it. You can see that there's a growth in that range. His hands look better, almost to the point when he started to land on Özdemir, he looked surprised. But he looked faster, he looked more accurate. I thought Özdemir looked kind of laboured at times, to be honest. I feel like Paul Craig, if he could immediately run it back next weekend and they were both, fresh and uninjured, I think he might be able to make the necessary adjustments within a week. I think he was surprised himself by how well he was landing, to the point where I think it was a bit unnerving for him. I would try and figure out a way of building his confidence in his striking, because I think he could be a lot more dangerous than he currently is. Keeping his chin tucked and throwing that straight 1-2 down the pipe, and then stitching some kicks onto the end of it. I remember watching him hit pads in, I think it was Australia fight week, and he was warming up, and I remember him hitting these pads, and I'm like, geez, if he lets go of one of those tree trunks, he's going to kill someone. But he just doesn't seem to have the confidence to do it a lot. And it's not a dig, not at all, but I would also like to see him have a more offensive grappling game, because as good as it is to be able to fight off your back, trying to pull people into your guard, it never looks like a dominant thing to do. It always, to me, looks like too much investment in a backup plan. And I would like to see him have a plan A, which is punch you, kick you, take you to the floor, and then take you back as you escape. Or even if he wants to keep going with his triangles, triangle people from mount. There are other ways to do it without trying to pull people into your guard or steal their shoes.
Would it be too early for a McGregor Paddy fight?
Yeah, I think so at the moment. I just think it's unnecessary to create that situation right now. I think McGregor's like way further into the division, of course, than Paddy is at the moment. And it's, although, I mean, it's always the thing, isn't it? When you've got two people that are such a huge star power, put them together and let's see what happens. That's the kind of fight for me that could happen in a couple of years' time. Like, I think McGregor, if he wants to keep competing, can find himself settled into a division or in between divisions if the UFC allow it, where he can just kind of have those fights that people want to watch. You know, him against Masvidal, him against Usman, him against RDA or whoever. You know, there's a lot of fights that I would watch. Gaethje, Chandler, you know, you name it. They don't always have to be consequential, though. They don't always have to be for a belt or anything like that. And this is an unfortunate habit that I feel the UFC have gotten into. I mean, we're seeing it on UFC 277 with the interim title. I just don't think we need it. I think we can recognize someone as having individual star power and give them an opportunity, a platform to express their skills, you know, without having to attach, you know, belts and titles and stuff to it. I think if McGregor can establish that position in the sport, there are a lot of people that fall into that category. The Cowboys of the world, you know, people that are kind of active legends, you know. And Paddy's on his way up these rankings. Give him a couple more years. If he finds his feet in the division, the priority will be the title. But if he doesn't, and he's still got this marketability, you know, let's get that McGregor fight on then and get them both a bunch of cash in their pocket. I'm not against it. I just think they're on different trajectories right now. McGregor is very much in a rebuilding position right at the top of the division, and Paddy's very much building up to the, you know, the beginnings of a career as a lightweight.
We've had a donation and a question from Tossie.
Oh, yeah.
And Nathaniel Wood, was him not getting the finish more of a testament to Rosa's durability or possibly a sign that he won't have enough strength at 145?
It's more about Rosa's durability than anything else. I think a lot of fighters would have crumbled in that situation. You know, he was like, even from the first round, he was struggling with that lead leg, you know, to the point where he was switching and he was uncomfortable in his opposite stance. And I think honestly, a lot of other people would have crumbled. And what I was more impressed with was Nathaniel's ability to stay composed, even though he was teeing off on his opponent. Like, it's difficult to stop yourself and pull out the pocket to avoid those counter punches when you're landing. You know, you throw 3 or 4 punches and you land 3 or 4 punches. Like, you want to just stay in there and keep going. It's, you know, there's an excitement there. But he didn't. He stopped. He stepped himself out. He was away from the counters. He went back to his low kicks. I'm sure he would have wanted a finish, but I hope he can watch that. And I'm sure that his coaches are all telling him that it was one of the most outstanding performances that I've ever seen by him. As much as we love the fights against Josh Reed, where it's a shootout until someone goes down, you can't build a career off those things and have any kind of longevity. And what we saw from Nathaniel Wood was him deal with a very, very tough customer and beat him up comprehensively without getting hurt. I think a lot of other fighters would have fallen, and I think Nathaniel's found the right weight class, and I think in future other fighters will fall at his feet, and I think he's on a trajectory to something quite special. I'm certainly on board.
A few people have mentioned Tom as well and his injury.
Yeah.
If there's been any news and stuff on that, but what do you think? What do you think happens, and where do you think it goes from there?
I mean, that looked to me like it was some kind of tear, some kind of rupture, and it looked like it was on the outside of his knee to me. I don't know when he did it or how. I don't know whether it was something that he brought into the fight. I know I've seen a few people looking back at the videos that were posted on Full Reptile channel, you know, to watch his gait, to see how he's walking, see if he's limping. I saw a couple of comments, people saying that he was, but I didn't notice it myself. I will go back and see, but I don't know. I mean, what you have to bear in mind with these colossal individuals, these heavyweight human beings, is that they can be working as hard as they want all the way through training camp and never breach like 95% output. But when it comes to a fight night and it's 100% output, you've got that extra little garnishing of adrenaline on the top that makes everything a bit more fiery. You know, these are the moments where people can like lift a car off a person in an accident situation. You get that additional 10% of scary human strength. That is transferred into everything. And if you've got to imagine, if you've got a chain and one of those links is brittle and you start to twist that chain, there comes a point when the torque is too much and that link will break. And if that was a pre-existing injury and Tom stepped in and threw that kick, that might have been the moment where it had taken all it could. And when he stepped back onto it, that's why his knee folded underneath him. think, was it Jimmy Crute that had the same kind of thing? Do you remember? I remember Jimmy Crute's knee giving out like that.
Yeah, it was. Was it against Anthony Smith?
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, like he had like that drop leg thing. Didn't
It was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it kind of bounced with it. It was like it catapulted. Yeah, it was a very, very unfortunate situation, and you know, I think he'll be back. I mean, you know, he's got time, he's got his age on his side. You know, he's not in a huge rush. If anything, he could do with being slowed down a little bit, because you know, he needs a bit more experience before he gets up to the top of this division. I expect him to be out probably for six months or so at least. You know, recovery, rehab, you know, getting back into training, building his confidence back in his knee, assuming he's going to need a surgery, which I would expect. I don't know. I feel bad for him, but we'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed for him. If you've not seen the pieces that went up on the Full Reptile channel, make sure you check them out. Him up in the north of England, or Scotland, wasn't he, with Paul Craig, swimming in the ocean and, you know, being a maniac. Yeah. Unfortunate, but he's got a bright future ahead of him still and plenty of time.